It is just a huge honor for me to be podcast interviewing Bill Blasing, the Executive Director of America's Dentist Care Foundation for 7 years, bringing with him years of experience related to operating a business and leading teams effectively. Bill Blasing joined the ADCF as their Executive Director in 2015. He is not only adept at ensuring the overall business goals of the organization are met, but Bill is skilled in cultivating relationships and opportunities that add value to their charitable clinic, family, and patients served around America. He is responsible for all aspects related to human resources, operations, budgeting, fundraising, donor relations. In the midst of the pandemic, Bill is spearheading the effort for ADCF to be thought leaders and strategic thinkers in collaboration with ADCF's many clinic contacts throughout America to ensure the highest possible level of safety so that the underserved will continue to receive the care that they need post-pandemic and beyond. Bill is married to his elementary school sweetheart, Gina, whom he considers his best friend. He enjoys cruising in his first car, a 1971 Chevelle Malibu, which also happens to be the car he courted Gina in during high school. The America's Dentist Care Foundation has helped provide free oral health care to the underserved since 2008 by supplying the dental equipment and associated expertise necessary to assist large-scale weekend clinics for patients in need, patients that otherwise would likely not get any oral health care at all. ADCF has been honored to support clinics as large as 145 chairs, as well as smaller-scale clinics that serve specific populations, such as our nation's veterans. Since 2003, Mission of Mercy and other ADCF-supported clinics have helped more than 250,000 patients and provided over $165 million in free oral health care. The America's Dentist Care Foundation facilitates the delivery of charitable oral health care to the underserved. Man, I could read this on and on and on. So your mother's a Mercy, right?
Mission of Mercy.
I'm sorry. The mom is Mission of Mercy, mom.
Happens a lot.
But Mission of is Mission of so are you the parent company? Is America's Dentist Care Foundation ADCF? Is that the organizer for Mission of Mercy?
Well, for a lot of them, yes. We didn't start it back in 2000. It was actually started in Virginia by a doctor there that basically just wanted to help people get out of pain. He saw a need in the community and had a free oral health day. In fact, in some parts of the country, they're called DAD, which is a dental access day. So we got mom and dad across the country. We actually got started in it. So the folks that founded ADCF went to see that clinic in subsequent years, and then started doing the Kansas Mission of Mercy, and then Oklahoma and Nebraska. And it started just kind of proliferating after it was launched in 2000 by several states around the country because they love the idea. And so what happened with ADCF is 3 dentists and a layperson whose wife happened to be a dental hygienist. That's how he got involved. These 4 guys basically saw a need for really good equipment to be able to be delivered to these different states. And it was getting bigger and bigger around the country. Well, these guys were borrowing equipment from each other in Nebraska and Kansas. And they were worn out trailers. The equipment was jostled around a lot. It was very rudimentary just because that's the way it was back then. And these guys thought, you know what, this thing's getting bigger and more popular. We need to have an entity that does nothing all day but equipment so that all these different states, as this thing gets more popular, can have equipment they can count on the day that clinic starts. These clinics typically help around, anywhere from 12 to 1,600 people in 2 days. So the equipment has to work. And these guys, in their forward thinking, decided to go ahead and start ADCF, and that was in 2008. And since then, we've been basically kind of what I call the center of the wagon wheel, that all the different states come to get this great equipment that's basically dental office quality equipment to take in and set up in big sports arenas and do these large scale clinics. So we've been at it since 2008. And just gotten more and more popular ever since then.
And what did you say the DAD stood for? You had Mom, Mission of Mercy.
Yeah, and then Dental Access Day is DAD.
Dental Access Day. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
But how could Dental Access Day? How could all the male dentists just get so involved with DAD that we just get Mom shut down? I mean, we just overtake Dental Access Day. Dental Access Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of that one. That is
And,
really, really interesting.
and there are entities out there, like there are a lot of philanthropic dental efforts out there. So, a dental access day might be done on just a Friday, or it might be a dental access day that's done on a weekend. It's just more than one day, but they're called different things in different places. And that's why we always say we support Mission of Mercy and other charitable dental clinics, because we also support, like you had mentioned, we do a clinic every year, a veteran stand down in Phoenix, Arizona, which is a comprehensive care head to toe clinic for veterans. And we bring in the equipment to support the dental piece of that. So we don't just do the moms, we do a lot of other things as well that are comprehensive care clinics. And we're happy to get those calls.
So you're the organizer of that one out here in Phoenix, in the where the Arizona State Fair is?
Well, we bring in the dental part of it. We don't organize the whole thing. Ironically, now that you mention it, our board president, Kevin Conroy, runs the dental piece of that. He does the Arizona Mission of Mercy, and he also does the dental portion of the veteran stand down out there. He's very active in this philanthropic dental effort.
It's I don't want to get political or anything like that. I don't like to talk about religion, politics, sex, violence, but to me, it's bizarre that these veterans came back and had teeth blown out from shrapnel, and they don't get dental insurance. They don't cover dental or brain medical. So if they have depression and their teeth missing, I mean, you would think that would be like two huge things for a veteran.
Yeah.
Is that how could the government not do that? How could
I don't know. That's the great unanswered question. And all of us in the philanthropic world ask that same kind of a question. It's my dad, before he passed away, volunteered as a retired guy. He volunteered at the VA just to go talk to veterans, just to sit in the room and talk to them. He just wanted to help in some way. And he and I had the same discussion. We can do better. And I think I think we're on the path of doing that. We're not there yet, but you ask a legitimate question that I think a lot of us are asking.
My comptroller Stacy does that. She loves her dog more than me, and probably half Arizona. But she just takes her dog into nursing homes one night a week, and she just walks around the nursing home, and she just says they just love it. And that is amazing. So you're based out of Wichita, Kansas. You're born in Kansas. My mom and I think my mom and three of my sisters still live there. And then the other ones have moved out. I'm concerned. Has this pandemic really affected you guys? And are you seeing a second wave? Because my mom, I talked to her this morning, and I guess there's a nursing home out in Kansas where they have like 67 people, and they all tested positive to it, and 10 have died. How was this pandemic since March to October? How has it affected volunteer missions like you're doing? And do you see a wave coming back like the one we went through in March and April and May?
Well, I don't know about the wave coming back. I hear the news like everybody else does, but you're right about that, that cluster we saw in the Wichita, Kansas area. And we see them across America. We see them on the news all the time. But as far as our work goes, it's a two-part answer. I think it's affected volunteerism in general, regardless of what sector you happen to be in, whether it's dental or any kind of other philanthropic effort, just because of the shutdowns. But what it's done to ADCF, specifically in the clinics that we support, for example, we had, for the 2020 schedule, we had 30 clinics scheduled, which is not uncommon for us. We've been growing a little bit every year since I've been here. We had 30 clinics scheduled for 2020, had our first 4 between January and February, and everything shut down for that. Everybody started canceling. It was just like a wave that just came over us. So we had 4 clinics, 26 cancels, which meant we had to make some tough decisions about sustainability. We had to stay open, keep the lights on, and do what we needed to do. Number one, to stay in business, quote unquote, because what we do is critical. I mean, you can't have a clinic without the equipment. So we have no choice but to be here. So we put up our fists and did everything we needed to do to try and stay sustainable and be here. And we've done that. So with those 4 clinics, We helped, in just those 4 clinics, we helped about 6,000 people with over $5 million worth of care. And that's just 4 clinics. And if you think about the average number of patients that we have historically seen, which is around the 15 to 1,600 range, that's about 40,000 people in need that didn't get the care in 2020 because of these clinics all shutting down. So that's a lot of people in need. And we all heard that after this, in the post-pandemic world, the need's going to be even greater just because people aren't getting the help they need right now. So I think the wave of need is going to be larger. And what we've tried to do as ADCF is plan for the future and try to be as much a part of the solution as we can. As the equipment people, we don't plan the clinics. We help in that, but the clinic leadership all over the country does their own planning and fundraising and things like that to get these things going. And they make a lot of the unilateral decisions on how they do certain things in certain departments. But from the equipment side, we've just been trying to plan on how do we help with aerosol mitigation, for example. That's a big deal. Infection control has always been a big deal in dentistry. It's just been the spotlight's just kind of gone from here to here in this pandemic. So we're trying to be as proactive as we can to bring in some kind of intraoral device that's going to help with aerosol mitigation, because in these large sports arenas, if you're putting up a 100-chair clinic, or probably in the next year, we'll probably do 50-chair clinics because we're going to spread the chairs out farther. If you're doing these 50-chair clinics, it's still a large scale clinic. And in a sports arena, you don't have the kind of HVAC systems and the air purifying systems that you can install in a dental office. That's just not possible in a hockey rink. You can't do that. So we're trying to do all we can chairside to help the clinicians to have the best kind of aerosol mitigation as possible to help these folks in need, because they have nowhere else to go. There's no such thing as a riskless endeavor. But we're trying to make it as helpful to the clinicians as possible to keep the infection down and just kind of take the pandemic head on and help people anyway. That's kind of what we want to do.
Well, good at you, man. This is just, did you ever think in your wildest dreams you'd be practicing or you'd be living through a pandemic?
Yeah, no.
I mean, isn't that just crazy?
No, it was an overnight, like everybody, and in the nonprofit world, I mean, we've been very fortunate to, over the years, to put some money in reserves that we're able to keep the lights on with. But it just literally, I got my first email about this the second or third week of March about, hey, Bill, we're thinking about canceling. Well, so I responded to that. And, your first thought is, you kind of think, well, it can't be as bad as we're thinking it's going to be. Well, that opened Pandora's box. And I started, like I said, getting all the emails and phone calls after that for cancellations, and it changed us overnight. And I think it's going to make us better. I mean, I'm a very optimistic guy anyway. And I'm not going to let a pandemic or anything else make me stop trying to improve as a leader at a nonprofit or in the nonprofit entity space. We need to take on a leadership role and be as proactive as possible to do what we can to keep this thing going, because I'm in it because I want to help people, and I have no intention of just sitting on my hands and hoping things get better. I want to be a part of the solution, because if I'm not, I'm part of the problem. And that's what we're going to do everything we can to do as ADCF.
So, right to the chase, money is the answer. What's the question? Is this, how do you get your funding? Is it all donations? Is it individual dentists? Is it dental insurance companies, or the Arizona Dental Society, or where do you get your revenue?
Well, we rent our equipment. We're mostly self-sustained, which is terrific. We rent our equipment out for a weekend for a fraction of the cost of what it would cost folks to go out and get, $2 million worth of stuff, which is what we bring in a trailer. So we rent our equipment out, and that helps us pay our bills. That's our core sustainability function right there. So it's nice to kind of be self-sustained in that respect. But we couldn't do that. We couldn't pay the bills and go out and buy expensive equipment and take it in without. We get a lot of in-kind donations and cash donations, mostly from folks in the dental space. We do get some individual contributions, but a lot of the folks in the dental space who have a heart to help people, especially in the corporate world, they may not have the philanthropic arm to do some of the things that they want to do. So they've helped folks like ADCF so that we can, take in everything from, they're all the big players. I don't want to mention anybody because I'll forget somebody, but all the big players in dentistry are supporting us in some fashion. And we are absolutely blessed. Every day, I'm thankful that these folks come alongside us and help us do what we do, because we couldn't do without them.
But I would think, that, the average profit margin of the Fortune 500 is only 5%. So, I mean, when sales drop 5 or 10%, and you're still paying your rent, mortgage, equipment, build out, computer, insurance, the only thing that's out is profit. I mean, do you think this will be a very challenging fundraising year for you, or what do you think?
I think in the next 12 months will be a challenge. The good news is a lot of the funders in the nonprofit space are starting to kind of do some pivoting to focus on how are you handling the pandemic, both now and in the future, post-pandemic. So there's a lot of focus on that, and we have a good story to tell in that regard. So we haven't done a lot of fundraising this year for obvious reasons. We just didn't feel right about it, basically, because we feel like we needed to be in business to be asking for donations. So we didn't. And again, we've been blessed enough to have the reserves to keep the lights on. But moving forward, we're going to be pursuing, any kind of grantor that we can and fundraising opportunities that we can tell our story to about what we're doing to help people in need in a post-pandemic world, because we've been very active at it. We're going to need the help in the future. And the folks who have been coming alongside us all these years, when you talk about the profit margins, we understand that. And we're very sensitive to our corporate partners, and that they have a business to run and they have clinicians to take care of. And we get all that, but they've been very good to us. And so far, the commitment is still there. So between that and going after funds for nonprofits that are trying to make a difference in a post-pandemic world, we think that we'll be successful.
So you really are the behind the scenes operations and logistics that pull off. I mean, they come out here, and I know in Arizona you have the Kevin Conroy, the Phoenix endodontist, and they're out there, and it's just amazing. All these dentists go and all that stuff. So, but you're the operations and logistics behind it.
Yeah.
Right? Is that a good way of explaining it?
I've explained it a couple ways. I mentioned the center of the wagon wheel earlier, but I've told the story. I've kind of compared it to the wheels on the bus. When you think about a bus has to get somewhere in this space that we're in, if you think about it from a bus perspective, the destination is patient care for the underserved. That's where the bus wants to go. The folks in the driver's seat of the bus are the clinic leadership that put it all together. The folks in the seats are all the volunteers. And that's all great to have, but that bus isn't going anywhere without the wheels. And I call us the wheels on the bus, because you can't have a clinic without the equipment. It's just, that's a very easy fact to embrace. But again, if you got the wheels on the bus and there's nobody in it, the bus is useless too. So we all need each other. We're all part of this clinic family, this effort across the country to get this done. But ADCF, we've historically kind of struggled with brand awareness, just because we're kind of the roadies. We're the ones that go in and put the equipment up and crawl under the tables and show volunteers how to hook things up. And then when the clinic starts, we step back and just kind of wait and see if anybody needs help with anything. If a water line goes down or whatever, we're just kind of there to help with that. But none of us are clinicians. None of us are dentists. None of us even came from the dental space. We're just there to focus solely on the equipment, be really good at that, so that nobody has to worry about anything when those patients, start coming in at 5 a.m.
And who did you start this in 2008? America's Dentist Care Foundation?
I didn't. Four really smart
guys.
Started
in 2008.
Well, ADCF.
Yeah.
Yeah, ADCF started in 2008.
2000 in Wichita.
In Wichita. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we had 2 Kansas dentists, 1 Nebraska dentist, and then another gentleman who lives in Kansas who was our first executive director, Bruce Bergstrom. Bruce is pretty well known in the dental space just because of his work starting this thing, and he worked tirelessly. He and the other 3 dentists, they put a lot of their own personal blood, sweat, tears, money, everything into this thing to get it off the ground and keep it going. And Bruce was even honored at the ADA one year with a special award, and he deserved it. So these guys, I take it kind of personally to keep this thing going and keep it growing and more successful, as in honor of those 4 guys, as well as in honor of all the patients in need. That we can't shut down. We just can't, and we won't. If I have anything to say anyway.
Wow. So, what could my homies listening to you right now? There's dentists who's listening to you from Kansas to Kathmandu. How they're listening to you right now. What could they do to help you?
Well, the thing that we could use the most as a nonprofit, obviously, is if people would be generous enough to go to our website and donate. We can always use the funding, not just now, but moving into the future, to help us remain sustainable like any other nonprofit. That's an easy ask, because that's what we need. ADCF.net, the donate button's right at the top in the middle. So that's obviously how you could help ADCF specifically. But as far as talking to the dentists out there, and especially I like to address the younger generation of dentists coming up, volunteer in your city or close to your city. Try and go to your dental association, your state's dental association website, see if they have a Mission of Mercy or philanthropic effort like a mom, and volunteer. And what I'm encouraging all the younger dentists to do is kind of get arm in arm with a leader and co-lead for a year or two, and then start taking it over. Because like I've said many times, a lot of these things have been going on for 10, 15 years, and the leadership loves what they do, but they're getting kind of tired, because it takes a lot to do this. It takes, a year, 18 months to plan one of these things. So what the dentist can do is get involved in their local area. I always say, just make a difference in your own little corner of the world, and the whole world will be brighter. Do that. But as far as helping ADCF specifically, because we're the roadies behind the curtain and nobody really sees us much, to help us specifically, we would love to have people just go to our website and donate to our general fund. That would be a big help to us.
Well, I am going to help you do that. I'm going to push something out, but I want to say, I don't know if this is right. Please help Mom and Dad, Missions of Mercy, MOM, and Dental Access Day, Dad, by donating to America's Dentist Care Foundation with ADCF.net/donate.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you.
Is that good? But is that okay with the Mom and Dad thing? I just think it's funny.
Yeah.
And most people don't laugh at my jokes, but I thought that was a pretty good one. But so I mean, have you ever experienced what happens to donations? I mean, from the time you've been in it, what happens during a downturn? I lived through. Well, I was born in '62. Do you remember the '62? They called it the economic, the stock market flash. It was a flash crash. It was and then I graduated high school in Bishop Carroll. Have you heard of Bishop Carroll in Wichita?
Yeah.
1980, interest rates were 21%. Unemployment and was double digit for unemployment and inflation. And then we had, of course, the 87 Black Monday, and then we had the Y2K in March 2000. We had Lehman's Day. So go back to Lehman's Day. When that was our last downward cycle 10 years ago. How did that affect donations and charity in general in dentistry?
Well, I wasn't in this role back at that time. I talked to a lot of dentists that have been at this for a while, especially in the philanthropic world. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes in a downturn, it's kind of that buy low, sell high mentality. Warren Buffett made a lot of his money when everything was crappy in the stock market, and he bought when things were cheap, and it made him very successful. So, in a downturn, sometimes people are more apt to give. It's just because they see the need around them. So, a heart can be touched with any small story. And I think that, I don't know what happened during the Lehman time, but I've seen kind of a little bit of that right now with us. I'll talk about a downturn. I mean, everything's downturn, from our health to our finances at this point. But people have reached out and actually written us checks just randomly to our general fund. So I think it's easy to assume that a lot of the donations might go down. And I think overall that's probably true. But there are those rays of light that come in occasionally that kind of, they're encouraging. They're encouraging to me. They're encouraging to my board of directors, and it really helps us to say, okay, let's get up tomorrow and do some more of this.
Can I read some of your supporters, your partners?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Great.
got my gosh, you got a platinum supporter. Shout out to Henry Schein is in there.
Yeah.
I got to tell you one thing about Henry Schein, that that's Stan Bergman, and twice in my life, I got that flathead where you hit your head like, can't believe it, where you're doing. Okay, so I'll give you an example. One of them, we flew to this big city, stayed in a hotel. The next day, drove like 2 hours to the base of a mountain, and we literally had to walk up the last, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. I mean, it was just horrible. And we get there, and there's just like this beautiful dental clinic with like 6 chairs, and we're just like, where that? It was like a movie. If it was in a movie, you wouldn't even have believed it. And it was Stan Bergman built that, and Henry Schein. And then it happened again in Tanzania, Africa. But anyway, I got the funniest YouTube. I post on YouTube, but I was at this it was an orphanage in Tanzania. And I told him that the man who built all this was my friend. And on my phone, why don't we tell him thank you? And they're all listening. They're all, they're all look like, they're 3 foot tall or whatever, the little kids. And so I hit play, and they started singing "Happy Birthday." They're like, "Happy birthday!" And I was like, that was as much English as I knew. But I said it to Stan. I said, I told them to tell you thanks, and they sing you "Happy Birthday." But I mean, so Stan, I have you met Stan Bergman? I don't have you.
Not yet.
I always wonder where that comes from. I mean, it's a burning mission with inside that guy.
Yeah.
He was born in South Africa, and he just, my God, he spends. And then Somatics. Okay, pronounce that wrong. So, and tell us about Somatics.
Well, it's Somatics. Ironically, it's a good plug for them. They just got another patent on this amalgam separation system that they've invented. We use their amalgam separator filters on our vacuums. We use the Air Technique vacuums, these big, huge double motor vacuums, and we use the Somatics amalgam separators on there. So and they have donated those to us, 100% donated. We get some things at a discount, which we really appreciate. We get some things completely donated, and that's one of them is the Somatics, the amalgam separators. And also, again, I could go on forever with all these folks, but Henry Schein, the sterilization pouches. We have to have those, and they'd be pricey to get them at the bulk we need them. Henry Schein donates those to us, specifically to ADCF. And that's what I mean about, a lot of folks will donate to a specific state's mission of mercy, which is great. But oftentimes ADCF gets forgotten in that mix because, again, we're behind the curtain and people don't realize we need some help as well to go out and do this 30 times around the country. And Schein was one of the early ones. Steve Kess, I met Steve Kess when I was probably 30 days into this job. And he's a big fan, and getting to know him has been a real joy for me. And Schein's been a big help ever since.
You seem so smart. I would have assumed you went to KU instead of K-State, but I mean, you just
that's why I'm so smart, because I went to K-State instead of KU.
And then Crosstex, big supporter. So what do they do?
Well, they help us with spore tests that we put inside of the, you have to do a spore test before you get rolling with the sterilizers, and they donate those to us. So, and that's what I meant earlier by every little thing that you wouldn't even think of.
Oh yeah.
Unless you're in this every day. These kinds of supporters.
And now they're part of the Hugh Freedy group. They got rolled in. They got merged and acquired by Hugh Freedy.
Yeah, and Hugh Freedy helps us too, separately. So wow. All the big players, like I said, all the big players are on board with us, and they've been very, very generous.
Yeah, and you got Dentsply Sirona.
Yeah.
You even got the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That surprised me, because I think that's something that you donate to the church, and now here's the church donating to this. Is that very common to have churches?
Well, not really. But here's how that relationship started. They have a volunteer army, basically, is what I call it. It's called Just Serve at justserve.org. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints volunteer army. And these folks were actually volunteering at the CDA Cares event in California when I first got started. They've been doing it for a long time, but I first met these folks back in about 2015 or 16. And I met one of the folks that was in charge of the group that went in to volunteer at CDA Cares. And he said, Bill, we want to help you nationwide. And we don't just want to help the Mission of Mercy. We want to do it through you because you guys, again, you guys are the center of the wagon wheel. How can we connect with ADCF to be able to not only help you, but to help the Mission of Mercy effort around the country? And that's how we got the relationship started with them. So they not only help at different clinics, but they also help ADCF specifically through their grant program. And they've helped us buy some significant amounts of equipment with the grants that they've been generous enough to donate to us.
Wow, that is very, very amazing. And and then you got Aseptico, NSK, Paradise Dental Technologies, Aceton, ADEC, Delta Dental of Wisconsin. So Premier Dental. My gosh, I mean, that really speaks volumes that you have so much support from so many people. And where do you think their support comes from? I mean, where do you think what drives these companies like that we just been mentioned? What drives them to be a part of this, do you think?
Well, everyone I talk to at these companies, they have a heart to help people. Like I said, it's oftentimes in a corporate setting, there just may not be that avenue as broadly, in a larger corporation like a Shine or Patterson or these larger corporations, Dentsply, all of them, they have a few more opportunities to have separate departments that might pursue that kind of thing. But even if that's not the case, every one of them has a heart to help people. And I think it says a lot for them that they want to proactively reach out and help us out. And some of these folks were helping us before I came on board. Some came on board after I came on board. But they just want to help people, and they enjoy being able to donate either their funds or their discounts, however they donate. I think that they are confident enough in us, which I think says a lot for ADCF and our staff here, and not just me and my staff, but the folks who put this together before us. I think they're confident enough in the work that we do and the diligence with which we do it that they have no problem donating to us once they get to know who we are, because we're good at it. I mean, my staff's fantastic at doing this. When, it's kind of a joke that I've had with some of the clinicians on the clinic floors before. We send 2 guys with each trailer to every clinic. Oftentimes, they're just sitting in a chair at a table with a big banner up so they know where we are if they need us. And they don't get to do that much oftentimes during the weekend. And, the joke I always have is if my guys are sitting on their butts, that's good for you. That means everything's working perfectly. If they have to be up and fixing things all the time, that's a problem. That causes problems with patient flow. It frustrates people. So it says a lot for our equipment to come in and work great, and my guys not to be busy all weekend because it works so well. And when corporate partners see that kind of thing and they hear about that kind of thing and they get to hear our story, they're happy to come on board because they trust what we do and they trust that their resources are going to the right people.
Yeah, reputation's everything, and it's a very small industry too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I always call dentistry the Hotel California because you can check in, but you never leave. I mean, you go to these conventions, and maybe this guy was at Ultradent for 5 years, and now he's over at 3M or whatever. But it seems like when people enter dentistry, they don't tend to leave.
Yeah, I see that a lot. A lot. I have contacts at many companies that have been at other companies that I also have contacts at. So, I heard when I first came on board in 2015 that the dental sector is just like a big family. Everybody knows everybody. And I'm learning that. I've been at this going into my 7th year almost here. And I see that all the time. People know people. And that's great in a nonprofit sector, especially. Networking is a big deal. I need to go out and see people and tell our story. So when I can talk to this person who knows this person over at this company, and they've been in the dental space for 30 years, it makes my job a little easier. So I certainly appreciate the tight-knitness of this sector.
The Delta people that I talk to, they think that during this pandemic, 40 million Americans with dental benefits have lost their job. And we've always known for 30 years that, if you want more of something, subsidize it. And when your employer, the government, subsidizes the dental visit, you're going to get more of it. And if you want less of it, then raise the price, tax it, or regulate it, and you'll get less. So don't you think if 40 million people lost their jobs with dental benefit, don't you think that's going to drastically increase the demand for homelessness, volunteer services, people that are desperate?
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, I already know that at least an average of at least 40,000 people did not get help in 2020 because of the 26 clinics that we had canceled. That's just the folks that we would typically expect to see. Now you add on top of that the folks that have lost their dental insurance. I'm an example of that. I've told this story before. I was unemployed for a year at one point in my career history. I barely left the house. I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't go to a dentist. I was in that funk that a lot of people are in right now, where I was putting out resume after resume after resume and getting zero response. I wasn't even getting an email back saying no, thank you. I was getting nothing. And so I know what that does to a person's psyche and to them emotionally and mentally and physically and spiritually, everything. And I didn't go out and spend one nickel on anything because I didn't know what my future held. So multiply that times these millions of folks across the country that have been hit by this thing. Like I said earlier, we can't close. We will not close. We're going to do everything in our power to help everybody we can the best way we can, because the need is not only there, it's now expanded exponentially. So the next 2-3 years, we're probably going to see some folks we wouldn't have typically seen before.
Wow, that's and we don't know how much worse it's going to get. I mean, we say we're halfway through it, but nobody can read the future. So I think this has been incredibly informative. I think a lot of people. It was kind of like with when they did the Affordable Health Care Act. The people started calling it Obamacare, and it seemed like if I had 5 conversations on it, they'd say, like they weren't for Obamacare, they were against it or something. I'd say, well, but you're on access. I mean, you're on access. And they had no idea that the state Medicaid was called Access. Mm-hmm. And it was such a branding nightmare. I mean, everyone knows their grandmother is on Medicare. It's one program. It's federally. Everybody knows the brand. But then when they did each state has its own Medicaid, and then, but it's called, Access, called all these things. I mean, it's just a branding nightmare. I was confused. Is he Mission of Mercy, or is he America's Dentist Care? Do you think you have that same issue where you want to go with one brand, or is it just you're helping so many different people? You're the roadies behind the scene.
Yeah, well, kind of a little of both, actually. We have, we've been so enmeshed with the mom branding over the years. In fact, our name when we first got started in 2008 was AMOM, America's Mission of Mercy. Some of the folks who used to use us back then still call us AMOM when we show up, even though our logo and name has changed and has been for a long time now. So we've been very enmeshed with that name. And from a branding perspective, it's funny you mentioned that, because I've had this discussion with my board too. It's important for us to have our own standalone branding so that people understand whether it's mom or dad or a comprehensive care clinic with, let's just take Seattle King County Clinic, for example. We go to Seattle. We've been going there for several years at the big King County Clinic there in their Coliseum. They aren't called mom. They aren't called dad. They're called the King County Clinic, Seattle King County Clinic. So for us to have our own branding apart from the mom and the dad is important to us, because we do so much more than just that. But like one of my board members has said, you walk into an elevator at a dental conference and say the word mom, people know what you mean immediately. You say ADCF and people go, huh? So in a way, it's good to be enmeshed with that. But in another way, it's important to us to have our own standalone branding, and for people to understand that we need the help as a nonprofit as much as any individual clinic around the country needs the help. So I've actually had, I've had a conversation before with a potential corporate partner who, once they had their internal meeting after meeting me, they said, you know what, Bill, we love what you do. We didn't know that you guys just did that. we think that's great, but we're already giving to XYZ Mission of Mercy. And the committee feels like that would be kind of double dipping into our philanthropic give if we give to them and give to you. So we're going to keep giving to them. So thanks, but no thanks. We've had that discussion with people before. So yes, we want to have our own standalone branding. We're proud to be associated with mom and dad and everything else. But as America's Dentist Care Foundation, we need people to understand. We're doing everything we can to help people understand. We are the wheels on the bus, and we need our own individual help. And we think it's, if somebody wants to give money to a Mission of Mercy effort in any given state, that's terrific. And we always encourage that. But we need the help as a nonprofit, because we're bringing in $2 million of equipment on each trailer, and that's an expensive endeavor. So any help that we can get as a standalone entity, as a standalone thought process to a giver, we would absolutely love that, because we will make that matter. Whatever they give to us, we will make that matter all around America. A lot of people get help by people helping ADCF to go do what we do.
And do you consider yourself a Medicaid welfare issue company? I mean, does that fall, I mean, generally speaking, or do you see it more as a charity, or
it's a charity. I mean, what we do is we help folks. I mean, the people that show up at these clinics, there are no criteria. You don't even have to show an ID to walk into one of these Mission of Mercy clinics. You just get in line. Well, in the future, you probably won't get in line, because that's going to change with the pandemic. But we see all kinds of patients, whether they're Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. But for ADCF specifically, we aren't really attached to a particular engine that gets people the care. We just focus on basically making sure we have the best equipment possible to go to these philanthropic efforts wherever we can. And a great example of that is the Seattle King County Clinic. They called us wanting to do this comprehensive care clinic, but they needed somebody that they could count on for the dental piece of it. That's why they called us. And we've been doing it ever since. So we don't really see ourselves as a Medicare or Medicaid type of organization. We're just an organization that wants to help people in need by showing up to support a clinic that's doing that.
And another question I've got, under charity, they usually falls under charitable or missionary, meaning one's related to a church, one's not related to church. Would you consider yours more a missionary dentistry, or charitable dentistry?
Well, ADCF's a charitable dentistry, it's sure.
Charitable dentistry.
Yeah. Mission of Mercy was just a name that was used when it first got started back in 2000. So the word mission sometimes has that connotation, which is okay with me. I happen to be a believer anyway. So as a Christian guy, every day I get out of bed is a mission. But ADCF as a standalone entity is just a charitable organization that's trying to help anybody that needs it.
Very, very good. My sisters, my two other sisters are nuns in Wichita, where you are. One went to Capon, and one went to Bishop Carroll. And but anyway, but we're sold when they went to Capon, the all girls school was over where Bishop Carroll is, and the Capon ones. But they always. It's funny whenever you do a dental church mission deal. It's like my God, they're the most brutal, exhausting days in the world. I mean, they're just brutal. But I think it makes everybody feel good. And what I want to tell the dentists is this. I was advised to do this by a good mentor of mine, Jerome Smith, Jerry, in Lafayette, Louisiana, and down in New Orleans. And first time he invited me to a mission, it was like, dude, you don't understand. I own a dental office. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I mean, I can't do it. And the reason it's so good is because everything is relative, and you think you're all stressed out of your mind, and you think your overhead's too high, and you think you have all these problems, and then you go spend the day with people who make your problems look like first world problems, I mean, just crazy. And even with the grandkids, I mean, I watched a meltdown over the weekend, and it was because her laptop wouldn't fire up. And I'm like, and I was trying to explain to her that, I just told her, I said, 2 out of every 3 kids on earth don't have a laptop. So, this would not be a problem. And what I thought it was really, really good for so many dentists. Is if you're stressed, when we were podcasting the president of the ADA, I was trying to talk about pandemic things, and Kathleen was trying to steer me back to that there's a suicide problem. I mean, dentists were, and when you look at these suicides, are just bizarre. I mean, okay, so it's a dentist, had a great practice, had a great family, had a great kids, everything's good, but closing down 2 months and missing some bills and all this thing. Next thing you know is he goes out and kills himself. And it's like, holy moly, there's people living behind dumpsters. And you look at your life, and for me, and then here's the other thing I can't figure out. I call it the giggle factor. I mean, you go to these places and they smile and they laugh and they giggle more in the middle of nowhere, jungles and all this. And then I could compare that to, I mean, if you've ever lectured, and I have in Seoul, Korea, Japan, Germany, New York, I mean, compare those people to the people of Kathmandu and Tanzania. I mean, when I was in Brazil, the kids didn't have the money for their favorite jersey. So they just had a black piece of charcoal coal, like you charcoal hamburgers on, and they would just write the number on their bare skin. And those people laugh and giggle more than Americans and Koreans and Japanese any day of the week. In fact, I always wanted to write a book called The Giggle Factor. And my gosh, I think what you're doing is so great for your target audience, the people in need. But I actually think it's as equal to, as great to the providers, because my homies, they need a reality check, and there's no better reality check than canceling the day at the office or going out of the country or going down to a mission and realize that I know you got a lot of problems, doc, but you're not the most, you're not going to get the poorest 1 billion people on earth to get out a violin and start playing a song for doc. And it's just a great thing that you do, and it's a great reality check. And I think a lot of dentists that are suffering from anxiety, depression, and starting to treat it themselves by drinking or drugging or whatever they're doing. Sometimes you just need a break, and you just need to get out of there. And I recommend, oh my God, a mission. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, you go there and you're just like, how do these people survive? And then after you spend 3 or 4 days with them, you're like, these are like the laughingest, funniest, happiest people I've ever seen. And then you go back to, I remember I got knocked to the ground. I've been knocked to the ground trying to get on subway because I'm amateur. I grew up in Wichita. I'm not used to getting on trains. By like a 60-year-old Korean lady in Seoul, another one in Japan. I mean, they're just not having fun. They're stressed out of their mind. And maybe if you just go spend a day with the have-nots, you're gonna realize that we create a lot of the stress in our own minds, and people just got to relax, lighten up, have fun. And I know these are really tough times in America. I mean, we got a pandemic. Do you need anything else? We got an election. We got all these things coming at us. And a lot of people are at their wits' end. But I'm like, think of the bright side. I'd rather be fighting a virus than World War II fighting humans on another team in a different uniform. I mean, I would rather be killed by a virus than some guy in an army that's looking right at the same species and shooting it. I mean, so it could be a lot worse. And of course it could be a lot better, but that's what life is. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But Bill Blasing, Executive Director, America's Dental Care Foundation. My gosh, send him. So if you just go to his website, he said it right there. Let me go back to it. It's ADCF, America's Dental Care Foundation.net. There's a big old donate button. I'm going to push that on social media. I have to admit, I've never done PayPal before. I don't know if that's a 58-year-old thing. Is the PayPal, does everybody kind of do that, or is that a younger thing? Is that what millennials do?
No, it's easy to give online. You just plug in a credit card basically, and we don't keep that information anywhere at all. It's a one-time deal, and it's just like paying anything online with a credit card.
Oh, so PayPal is just like using your credit card?
Yeah. And there are addresses on there for people who might just want to send a check. our address is on there too, and they can just send it to our office and general donation fund, and we'll take it from there, and we'll make sure everybody gets an acknowledgement, so they'll have that for their taxes, and they can know what kind of help they're giving people.
Yeah, and that I learned something on my own show. I had no idea that PayPal was just like that. You could do. I thought you had to set up an account and be a PayPal person or whatever. So you're on the east side of town. You're on the Capon side, not the Bishop Carroll side, right?
Yeah, we're out off 96 Highway and Webb Road, basically, in Wichita. So we're right off the highway.
All right. Have you ever seen the company Key Construction?
What's that?
Have you seen the company Key Construction?
Yeah.
That's all family, all relatives. Yeah, all family and relatives. Small world. Well, hey, I will push this out. And also, do you have a monthly program or is it just a one-time program?
No, people can set up to pay us just basically through their account. They can do that through our website too, on that same PayPal thing. I think these folks that are doing it right now, we have some individuals doing it that maybe they're PayPal.
Okay, there it is. It says make this a monthly donation, and I just want to give one business story, so everybody knows Procter and Gamble, right? Do you know what? Do you know they were the first really billionaire companies in the last 18 years. Do you know what their business model was, why they became billionaires? You see it in dentistry. I got out of school in 87, and there were these lasers being sold for $50,000. And after they sold 1,000 of these $50,000 lasers, it went out of business. And I thought, wow, that is so bizarre. And that's what Procter & Gamble noticed that happened in America all from 1800 to 1880. He says what would happen is a company would, a guy would borrow all his money, and he'd buy all the ingredients for all this soap, and he'd build all the soap he could, and then he'd go around selling everybody a gunny sack of soap and all that kind of stuff. And then he realized nobody in Parsons, Kansas needs soap anymore. Everybody bought a gunny sack full of soap, and they wouldn't cash flow to their next without a soap. And at Procter & Gamble realized the problem was the packaging and the amount. So they said, what we're going to do is we're going to start a soap company, and we're going to later do other things, toothpaste, whatever, but we will only sell you a month's supply because we pay our rent monthly, our bills monthly, our payroll monthly, our electric bill monthly. And as soon as they started getting people buying each month, they had cash flow. As soon as they had a couple years of cash flow, in Ohio, they went to the big old bank there, and the bank loaned them millions of dollars because they had this steady stream of income. So when you donate to Wikipedia, when you donate to America's Dental Care Foundation, I would rather you give them $10 a month into perpetuity than give them $100, and then Bill thinks, oh, we got some money, and then next month, it doesn't show up, it doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. And cash flow purposes is, just think of Procter & Gamble. And by the way, the other thing about Procter & Gamble, they were the first guy to actually write a practice management deal. They wrote the DuPont formula, and I want to show you, and I want to, I'll mention that just to show you the importance of the DuPont formula, that if you really love a charity, it's kind of like church. The reason churches can grow so well is because you donate every week. Every week you go to church, they pass the basket. But a one-time donation. But the DuPont formula was really easy. It was profit margin times turnover times leverage. Think about that. So profit margin is net income over sales. Say you have sales of $1 and you net a dime. So you have a 10% profit margin, but that doesn't tell you anything. I don't know anything about your business. So it's times turnover, the asset times sales. So let's say my sales were $1 and I made a dime. But to make that dollar sales, what did I have to buy? I had to buy a dental office. Well, was that $10 an asset? So if I buy a dental office for $1 and it does $1 in sales, then my 10% net profit margin is also my 10% return on asset. But if I borrowed that dollar at the bank, I only had a dime into it, and I borrowed $1, my equity would be a dime, but my asset would be $1, so I'm leveraged tenfold. So the DuPont formula is net income over sales, profit margin, times sales over asset, which is turnover, times assets over equity. So it's your profit margin times your return on asset times your return on equity. And again, 32 years of doing this. I'll go into any dental office. His hygienist just does a cleaning, exam, and x-ray, walks down. I say, hey, doc, your hygienist who's been here a decade just did a standard cleaning exam and x-rays. Did you net $5.12 or did you lose $12? They never know. And then they'll say, oh, last year my overhead was 65%. That didn't tell me anything. What was your return on asset? How much money is invested in this, and what was your return? I guarantee you know how many dentists would make more money if they sold their entire land, building, and office to Heartland and then just put it into a savings account, and then you'd at least have a guaranteed return on asset. And then ROI. My dad told me a dozen times. My dad had 5 Sonic drive-ins in Wichita.
Oh, really?
Do you ever? That's how I cut my teeth. He was the first Sonic drive-in franchise in Wichita, Kansas.
That's cool.
And then we put one in Kearney, Nebraska, Abilene, Kansas, Childress, Texas, and Louisville, Kentucky. And the 5 in Wichita were so good because that's where his team was. But, you know, in his mind, he wanted to go national. So he went north to Childress, or south to Childress, Texas, and north to Kearney, Nebraska, and east to Louisville. And those were his disasters because his management team was in Wichita. And we could hit all 5 stores. We could do everything. So when you're adding other locations, you know, they should all be very, very close to each other. But that DuPont farm, I still have never met a dentist in my life other than the billionaire Rick Workman, who owns Heartland. He could tell me, but I'm talking about not the DSO captains. But I'll just say, yeah, you've been a dentist for 20 years. Can you tell me your return on asset from any of those years or your return on equity? No. And that's why I'm telling you, if you don't know this stuff, you're going to help them a lot more by making a $10 monthly donation so he can start budgeting and planning and forecasting. A one-time lump sum doesn't do anything. You need cash flow. But thank you so much, Bill Blasing. Were you named after Blazing Saddles?
No, it's an old German name. So
is it a German name, Blazing? Yeah,
that's what I've been told anyway from my family. But it's spelled with an S. So a lot of people say Blasing or Blasing or, you know, butcher it, but it's always been pronounced Blazing.
And obviously you're wearing a wig, right? I mean, that is too perfect of hair to be natural. So it's either photoshopped. So Bill Blasing, America's Dental Care Foundation, please go to them and donate an amount of money that's monthly, and I'll do everything I can at my end to help you raise some money. So,
thank you so much, Howard. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you having me on and your promotion and support.
All right. Have a rocking good day.
You too. Take care.